and then you can tell the difference.
Yeah,
like,
that sounds good.
Somewhere in between or within.
Yeah, because I don't want it to like interfere with being able to see this, but I think it's off enough.
Yeah.
I'm Brooks Turner. I'm an artist, writer, and educator, and I have a show called Pedagogy and Propaganda that is opening at the Perlman Teaching Museum at Carleton College. I'm really interested in how history is recorded. The images that you first encounter when you enter the museum are primarily taken from the 1934 Teamsters strike. In the interwar period, labor organizing became a way for people to take back some of their power. This strike was one of the most important moments in labor history, not just in Minnesota, but really in the US. It was led by a group of Trotskyist labor organizers who had been successful in organizing unions and strikes in Minnesota previously. The intensity of the work stoppage that the strike initiated was met by employers banding together to hire essentially an army of mercenaries. Those mercenaries then engaged in violence, beating up strikers, and the strikers defended themselves. I also move a little bit further into the future. In 1938, a number of the leaders of the Teamster strike went to Mexico to study with Leon Trotsky, who was living with Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. And the pieces that deal with that history are sort of a way for me to try to understand the relationship between art and activism, between the labor of work, the labor of thought, the labor of revolution, how all of these things are inherently connected to building a more equitable future. There's something really seductive to me about archive. You know, you get a box or you get a folder and you start going through it, and you're holding in your hands the fragments of history. And so then jumping from being in the archive to actually making the work is really natural to me, because the same connections I'm building in the archive I can build digitally by, placing different pieces together. The smaller gallery in the Perlman is much more about exposing the history of fascism that is in Minnesota. I use challenging imagery. I use imagery that has a history in being used by fascists, by Nazis, both here and in Europe. And part of that is because I think we need to see these things, we need to encounter them in order to know how to deal with the ideology behind it. If we try to hide history, it will repeat itself. In my engagement with history, I want to simultaneously expose this mythology, to work with the mythology, but also to create a new mythology that can tie back into an anti-fascist future.